us this evening. Special treat, literally a treat, this evening that I hope you'll enjoy. But she's the one that took care of our kiddush needs, so I'm going to ask you to
Very
come
small
up.
kiddush.
No, it's nice. That's very
But
nice.
it's okay.
And would you do us the honors, and we can all join together? Before we begin, I'd like to read a passage from the book of Zechariah. Zechariah, we read on Hanukkah, on Shabbat Hanukkah. We read a special prophetic reading called the Haftorah, and it's taken from the prophet Zechariah. Zechariah was actually a prophet of the exile. And in 525 BCE, he and others returned to Israel to rebuild the temple. And they were having all kinds of difficulties. And then he prophesied the following, and it'll be really clear as to why this particular selection is read on what's called Shabbat Hanukkah, where the Shabbat, wherever Hanukkah falls, it always falls, there's always a day of the week where Shabbat happens, where Hanukkah falls on Shabbat. So this is what we would read tomorrow. And the angel that spoke with me returned and walked me as a man who is wakened out of his sleep. He said unto me, What do you see? And I said, I have seen, and behold, a candlestick all of gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, and its 7 lamps thereon. There are 7 pipes, yea, 7 to the lamps, which are upon the top thereof, and 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side thereof. And I answered and spoke to the angel that spoke with me, saying, What are these, my Lord? Then the angel that spoke with me answered and said unto me, Know thou not what these are? And I said, No, my Lord. Then he answered and spoke unto me, saying, This is the word of the Lord unto Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. That's what we read on Hanukkah. We don't really celebrate the victory of the Maccabees. What we really celebrate is the spirit that infused the Maccabees to fight. And what were they fighting for? They were fighting to worship God. And they were fighting to purify the temple. And of course, the menorah that we have isn't the 7-branch menorah, as is in the temple, but is of course 8 branches to signify the 8 full days that the oil lasted for them to make new oil, so that the menorah would always be lit in the new temple that they were in the process of building. And how poignant are these words today? Not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. So let us begin with the lighting of the Hanukkah candles. And we can all join with Maggie.
I'm not using a special drawer. I brought my own mattress from home.
Yeah, it's a little too complex for us. So.
Oops. Shall I do the thing I do at home?
Yeah, I think so. Wasn't that pretty good? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlek ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim li'avoteinu bayamim Jackie. And I'll call on Danette and David to light the Shabbat candles now. Or on page 120 for the lighting of the Shabbat candles.
Okay, lead us. I don't remember how to
Oh,
start.
sure. Molly, would you like to lead in the chanting of the
Oh, sure.
Shabbat?
Yeah. Okay.
Everyone take it.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu
Thank you. Turns out we did that.
Thank you, Danette and David. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to continue with a song to celebrate Hanukkah, Light These Lights. I couldn't find it in the...
Yeah, I realized it wasn't in the prayer book.
Okay, it's not in the prayer book, but we'll certainly enjoy the beauty of Hanukkah with the beautiful song Light These Lights.
And feel free to join in if you know the words or if you catch on. Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you.
And that leads right into not only the spirit of Hanukkah, but of course the spirit of Shabbat. And we bless God who has blessed us with the beauty of Shabbat. Please rise for the Baruch Hu, page 146.
Baruch
And we remain standing for the Shema, the V'ahavta, page 152 and through page 154. Seated. We continue now with the V'ahavta on page 154.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol lebecha v'kol nafshecha v'kol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Elohim
Mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam
b'shivtecha b'betecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shoftecha
uv'kumecha
וקשרתם מאוד בידיך, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך,
ובשעריך,
למען תזכרו ועשיתם
את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם.
אני אדוני
אלוהיכם,
אשר
הוצאתי אתכם
מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Let us continue with a contemporary understanding of the Shema on page 155. Let us join in prayer. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscience act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. And we continue now with the Micha Mocha and the Hanukkah trope. The Micha Mocha celebrates the crossing of the Red Sea and mourns the drowning of the Egyptians, but most important, recognizes the sovereignty of God and its link, the important link of the sovereignty to God, to freedom to worship, and how deeply that is ingrained in our faith. We continue now with the Micha Mocha, with the Hanukkah melody, page 158. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו Baruch atah Adonai ga'al Yisrael. Redemption plays such an important part in our relationship to God. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own, just as God redeemed us from the hands of the Greeks as we celebrate Hanukkah. Praised are you, Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael, the one who has redeemed Israel. And we continue now with the Vishamru, page 162. And please rise for the tefillah beginning on page 164.
Adonai, Sevat rot, vikel oliv neben hem, lemanchen Bob yava, melech ozer, u'mashiach u'magen, baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, veitzrat Zerah, atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayei hakol atah, rav de'hoshia.
Page 168, 3 lines from the top.
Mechakel Chaim בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומזהיר אסורים, ומחייהם באמונתו, משני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מימית ומחייב, ומשיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מפני הכל.
Page 170.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You may be seated or stand as is your preference. We're going to continue in silent meditation, either in your own private thoughts and your relationship to God, or of course in the prayer book. For those that are a little bit unfamiliar with the prayer book, the traditional prayers are on the even number side of the pages to page 180 on the right side, and on the left side, say page 171 on more contemporary readings. We're going to continue with a reading on page 556. Would anyone like to read? This is a special insert that is read during the festival of Hanukkah. It's usually read in conservative and in traditional synagogues in the middle of the silent devotion. Here we see that it's at the end for everyone to participate. It's done just a little bit differently. May I have a volunteer to read in the English, page 556? Thank you, David. Thank you. Would you stand and perhaps maybe come forward so that the people on Zoom can see you? Thank you, David, for volunteering.
Are we at the top?
Yeah, you can go there and then there, yeah.
Okay.
And you can join with David if you'd like.
We thank you for the miracles, for the redemption, for the mighty deeds and saving acts brought about by you, and for the wars which you waged for our ancestors in the days of old at this season. In the days of the Hasmoneans, Mattathias ben Yohanan, the high priest, and his children, when the evil government of Greece rose up against your people Israel to make them forget your Torah and to make them leave the laws of your will. In your great mercy, you rose up with them in their time of trouble and fought in their fight, judged their cause just. You delivered the mighty into the hands of the weak, the many into the hands of the few, the unclean into the hands of the pure, and the evil into the hands of the righteous, and the arrogant into the hands of those who engage in your Torah. For you made a great and holy name in your world, and for your people Israel. You brought about the great triumph and redemption on that very day. And when your children came to the Holy of Holies and emptied your temple, and purified your holy place, and lit candles in your holy courts, and established these 8 days of Hanukkah, grateful to acknowledge and to praise your great name.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We continue with Shalom Rav.
Page 178.
So, Shabbat Shalom. And Chag Sameach, happy Hanukkah to everyone. I do have a Devar Torah prepared, but I always want to start, I'd like to, since we have a small gathering, any questions or any comments that you have? This is maybe a good time to ask, whether about Hanukkah, about Shabbat, about Judaism in general. engage in a little conversation about topics of interest to you. And I'm putting you all on the spot. I should have prepared you. I should have put that in the high notes.
I heard you go, you were supposed to say something.
No questions, no comments to the rabbi. Okay.
Rabbi,
Yes, please.
can you comment on some of your travels and when Hanukkah's come around? Have you ever been overseas for Hanukkah? Probably Israel. What about the Ukraine and your travels there?
Oh, thank you for
Have you seen
asking.
it
We
in other
always
places?
travel. That's a good point. I did travel to Belarus once during the wintertime, during this time, and we were looking at cemetery sites. And I can tell you, you think it's cold here. It was really cold. I mean, it was obviously with wind chill, it was well below zero, and we were. This was in the early days of the project when we were looking at various cemetery sites to restore that had been neglected. And they wanted to show me the countryside, which was quite poor. This is in Belarus, this is not Ukraine. We always went during the summer. And by the time we ended up going to the Ukraine, we had people in place that could give us the sites that we really needed to go to. I know people are very interested in Ukraine, and I've said this before, but it bears repeating that of all the countries that we went to, including Poland, we were received very well in many places, in some of these small villages, such as Belarus. But in Ukraine, the reception was always exceptional. They really had a sincere affinity towards Americans. When our students got off the bus, I mean, we were met with swarms of high school kids and grade school kids. The conversations I had with the adults was always centered on freedom and democracy and how much they valued their country. And they had been under Soviet rule. By that time they had been liberated, but they had experienced, the people that we talked to had experienced what life was like under the former Soviet Union. Which is why I think Russia, I don't want to get political you can't almost help it. But I can tell you that the people that we encountered, the three cemeteries that we restored there, they were in love with democracy. What Zelensky said in Congress, and from my experience, he was really speaking for the people that we encountered. And that's just a little bit feedback in terms of Ukraine. But there's an interesting story that I'd like to share with you, and I don't think I've shared it. So we were traveling, and they wanted me to meet a righteous Gentile, one who had been inducted at Yad Vashem. You can become a righteous Gentile at Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Memorial that's in Jerusalem. And if you ever have a chance to go to Israel, you must go there. That is just a must sight to see. But they've had ever since its founding, I believe, an acknowledgement of Gentiles who did, non-Jews, who did extraordinary things during the Holocaust. One of the most famous, of course, is Oscar Schindler. He was recognized by the Holocaust, by Yad Vashem, as a righteous Gentile. But there are many non-famous people, one of which was a very old lady who lived in a home that looked like it had been built about 1910. It was pretty old. It was in the middle of a very small village, a shtetl. You've seen pictures of homes in that era. They didn't have, indoor plumbing to go to the bathroom. And her house was like that. So imagine this scene. So we met her, and she was just this very old lady. I had to have we had to have a translator and so forth. And she showed me her certificate from Yad Vashem, and I think she also got some type of a medal or some type of a necklace. And she told me the following story. As you know, there was a treaty between the Nazis and Russia, a peace treaty, essentially. And of course, the Nazis violated that treaty at Brest, which was a fortress, which was right, I think it's borders the German border, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, the Nazis came up to that border, and there's a huge fortress. It's called the Brest Fortress, B-R-E-S-T. And there was a woman who was pregnant, and her husband, both of them were Jewish. He was a captain in the Soviet army. And he was outside the Brest Fortress when the Nazis invaded. Okay, got the picture? When they crossed over and began they began, that time, I think it was White Russia. It wasn't a country, it wasn't Belarus, it was what known as White Russia. Well, actually, White Russia is Belarus, excuse me. It was in the Pale of Settlement. Huge fortress, you can't even imagine how huge this thing was. So the Germans invade. He runs into the fortress. The captain goes into the fortress, fights with his troops. They hold the Germans for about 30 days, and finally the Germans take over. They surround, or they get this woman who's pregnant along with all the other wives who were there at the time, and they send them on their way. They don't kill her. They're not at the point yet of killing Jews. I mean, they just crossed the border. So she's in exile. She's lost her husband. Her husband's dead, and she's walking. And you just imagine the chaos and so forth. Excuse me, I left out an important part. She gives birth to the baby. Excuse me. So she's got this little baby who's like an infant. I mean, weeks old practically. And she's walking with this baby, right? And she's walking for a long time. This is not like around the corner. This is, miles and miles away from the fortress. And she comes upon this little village where this real old woman lived. It's a true story. And she knocks on the door and she asks for help. And this woman, who, if she had an 8th grade education, was a lot, lets her in and hides her for the duration of the war. This is like 6 years with a baby. And she describes that the town kind of helped as well. And the woman knew that she was Jewish. And so she hid her for 6 years. Eventually, after the war, the woman went to Moscow, where she lived, and the daughter, this little infant, after 18, 20 years, I don't know how long it was, comes to the United States. And she settles in Cleveland, the little infant. We tracked her down. And so I asked her, what made you decide? And for this, she was honored as a righteous Gentile, and rightfully so. I mean, there's no question. She risked her own life. I said, what? Because I'm always interested in how people make moral decisions. Because it's really hard when your life is on the line, in the midst of chaos of war, to take those kind of risks. I mean, those are extraordinary risks. And here we have a woman who's not educated and not particularly religious, from what I could gather. I mean, I think she went to church, but it wasn't, she didn't have crucifixes in her home or anything like that. She was in a very plain home. And so I asked her, how did you decide this, this thing, to do this thing for 6 years? And she said, well, when I opened the door and I saw her, I saw his mother, and I saw a little baby, what else could I do? I mean, the moral clarity of that is so profound, because we find all kinds of ways to go in the middle, and we find all kinds of ways to, rationalize, but we compromise our moral system constantly. I do it. I mean, we all know what I'm talking about, right? And so I'm always interested in how people come to make those kinds of moral decisions that could have had profound consequences. She could have lost her life. She and the woman and the baby.
A Hanukkah story to tell, and it's based in the Holocaust as well. There was an American Jewish soldier on patrol, and this is toward the end of the war. He had guard duty one night to make sure that the hardcore Nazis didn't infiltrate the area, and something caught his eye that he saw in the distance in the woods. So he yelled to halt or he would shoot, and he couldn't tell where it was coming from, so he stood silent and waited, and then saw the shadow move again, and he followed it, and it turned out to be a young teenage boy that was digging in the dirt, and the boy started taking off, and he chased him down, and it was a very ornate, beautiful Hanukkah menorah, and the boy kept saying, this is mine, and he says, I'm not going to take it away from you, because he knew what it was, and he said, you and I are the same. And he was over in Europe for I don't know what length of time, but he became attached to the boy became attached to the guy, because he was forced to watch his father being shot by the Nazis, and he never knew what happened to his mother. So he asked the boy if he would like to come back to America with him. And he put in all the paperwork, and it was approved, and he lived with him. And about 5 years later, they had the Hanukkah menorah appraised, and this guy said, it's a very valuable one, I'll buy it for $50,000. This is 1950. And he said, no, this is my family's, I don't want to sell it. So every year he would light the Hanukkah menorah, and it would be displayed in the window, and this woman knocks on the door, say, I see you've got this menorah lit. My family had one just like it. So he invited her in and said, could you tell me about it? Invited the son downstairs, and it turned out to be his mother.
Ah.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, they both thought they had enough for everybody.
Wow. Yeah. What a great story. Such an inspirational story. That's a miracle.
That is indeed.
That's a miracle that rivals the oil. Yeah. In
I
fact,
guess
even
that's
the-
why they called it the Festival of
The
Lights.
Festival of Lights, because it's not about the candles, it's about the deeper light that our humanity can bring to the world when we exercise
It
it.
was.
Beautiful story, thank you. It's a beautiful story. Well, on that very positive note, let's continue. There's an
So I was going to do something a little different tonight. I want to invite everyone to join in. The words to the song we're going to sing are on page 671. You don't have to sing the whole time, but you're welcome to. I would love your voices. Light one candle for the unhappy children. Give thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their righteousness was denied. Light one candle for the terrible
us turn now to the Misha Berach after that very appropriate light one candle, and we've heard stories that really represent that idea. We continue now with the Misha Berach, the prayer for healing, page 371. We pray for the healing of Rhoda Bennett, Harold Fink, Lori Weisberg, David Cherniak, Phyllis Feibelman, Dr. John Johnson, Mark and Hetty Blinderman, Elise Zeman, Jennifer and Amy Sundberg, Pam Fisher, Max Schoenfeld, Alice Glass, Margene Rubin, Elizabeth Kaiser, Alice Schoenfeld, Dr. Margaret Moore Nadler, Sheila Ross, Jamie McGinnis, Mike Thornton, Alan Lewis, Henry Hoven, David Grossman, Kat McDonald. Is there anyone who you would like to add to our prayers this evening for healing?
Jennifer and Connie.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom?
Joel Levy.
Thank you. Please rise now for the Aleinu, page 586, and then page 591.
Oh
You may be seated. This week we observe the yahrzeits of Nathan J. Friedman, Jack Silverstein, Willis Darby, Max Fry, Jerry Rose, Leah D. Newfield, Julia Holberg Coleman, Annie Greenwald Salmon, and Cyril Rich. And Jerry Rose, Jerry Rose. Is there anyone observing a yahrzeit whose name we did not read, who they wish to remember at this time? Mourner's Kaddish, please rise, page 598. In solemn testimony to that unbroken faith which links our generations one to another, we now recite, Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, B'yolma divrachi rutei, v'yamnich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'le'olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemrei dekudsha b'richu le'elamin kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yolma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May God, who establisheth peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn, and let us say, Amen. Amen. You may be seated. Before we continue with the close of our service, I would like to make a special announcement and to bestow a special blessing. We have a special announcement to make. This past Thursday, Meyer Levy and Danette Menaker became part of the Jewish people. They appeared before a Bet Din in Montgomery, Alabama, consisting of Rabbi Scott Kramer and Rabbi Stephen Silberman. They were examined as to their sincerity and as to their commitment to the Jewish people. Thereafter, they immersed in the mikveh, and they now have become full members of our people. So I would like for them to come forward, and we would like to bestow a special blessing on them, and then join in the singing of Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov. Oh, no, come up with Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and may God guard you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God shine God's countenance unto you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And may God always lift up God's presence unto you and give you peace and wholeness of life. And let us all say, Amen. Amen. Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov, U'Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov, U'Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov, U'Mazel Tov, Siman Tov. Yehelanu, 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 U'Lechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, U'Lechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu. It is a wonderful day for our community. They have studied hard, and as all of us know, was not just coming and studying with the rabbi. They have become both an integral part of our community. And Meyer passed the last test when he came this Sunday morning to peel potatoes. So that was, and we all know the Menakers and how committed they are and how committed Meyer is. And we are really blessed to not only have you be part of the Jewish people, but we are really blessed to have you as part of our community. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to now continue with the Kiddush. Molly, you want to,
Sure. Can I have someone join me?
page
Howard.
123?
Oh, no, it's your turn.
Yes, nope, come on, Howard.
Yeah, my voice is worn out. I try to sing with her, my voice goes out after.
I think Nate should be with me too.
Nate can come up too, we can all. No,
Too hard for me.
okay.
Yeah.
He's not doing it tonight, all right.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari ha'nafel. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'atzavanu. Wonderful.
Be careful on that, Brian. The kitchen's very cold.
Everyone join in with me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
It's a hockey puck.
Hmm?
It's a hockey puck.
It's,
I'll just
don't
do-
break a tooth, be careful.
I'll do a little more. Just kind of. So delicious.
Chicago Blackhawks.
We want to welcome the people on Zoom: James Perry, Shirley Boyd, Harold and Emily Fink, Mel and Odette Sternberg, Steve Malfelder. We saw Steve last night at the governor's mansion where we lit Hanukkah candles with our beloved governor, Kay Ivey, Gil and Enid Layden. Jack and Amy Friedlander have been true to your words about always being a part of us. You will never, ever leave us. Thank you so much for being with us from Atlanta. Harvey and Sandra Gandler, again, and Marion Birkin. So we want to welcome all of you who came to Zoom. And what a wonderful minyan that we've had tonight in the cold weather, combined with the people on Zoom. It's a very, very nice gathering. And we have a nice kiddush. There was a gentleman around the corner who makes, why don't you tell the story? Because you're the one that commissioned him.
This is true. He makes pound cakes, real pound cakes, like, pound of butter and a pound of flour and a pound of. That's how it got its name. So I asked him if he would give me some, I wanted to try it, so he did, and it was just like wonderful. Very close to Larry's. I won't say it's as good as Larry's, but it's
No,
really
you can't,
close.
particularly,
Yeah, but it's really
we don't want
close.
that posted on YouTube.
Yeah, but I'm saying, yeah, because Larry's
I don't want this to
is-
go viral, so.
No. Larry's is it, right? But this
That's
is
true,
very,
yeah.
very good, and so he wrapped them up in individual little, he made little individual, but it's hard to get a whole one down, and I love pound cake, and I can't eat a whole one, so,
I hope you'll all enjoy it.
yeah, enjoy.
We have a whole bunch there, and we want to welcome, I'm blocking your name, I apologize, but we have, he's actually the organist and pianist at the Government Street Presbyterian Church, and
Chris Nimick.
Chris Nimick, I know the first name, Chris Nimick, we're just delighted to have you with us, and thank you so much for your beautiful accompaniment. And we now have a certified diva in our midst,
Come to think of it.
fresh from her performance in a opera from last Sunday, which I heard was wonderful and got rave reviews.
What
Molly, so
opera?
we want to congratulate you on that. That was
Tell us the
wonderful.
name of the opera, please.
This was Amal and the Night Visitors. It's by John Carlos Menotti.
And your role was?
The mother.
She had the lead role.
The lead role, that's what I was trying to pull out of you.
Oh,
Mazal tov.
Yeah, yes.
the mother of Amal, so yes.
We're also very proud, and keep us
Wow.
posted as to any recitals or any other performance. The only reason that we were not able to be there was because we had the Hanukkah
Oh, it was Hanukkah
party and then we had
celebration,
Friday night
yes.
services. But we certainly missed you, and it's wonderful to have you back with us.
Thank you, Randy.
Okay, and now I know that this song will rival the complicated parts that you sang at the opera. We're going to continue on page 669. By now we all know the melody of Ma'al Tzor. Let's become a choir, as it were. Okay, Ma'al Tzor, Rock of Ages, page 669.
And we will do the first verse in Hebrew and the first verse of English.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Please join us for the Kiddush in the
And we're
hallway.
in the library.
Oh, the library?